Had late drama in Milan and some clinched cheeks in Munich.
Real Madrid slip up in the title race in Spain, but Liverpool remain the team to beat in England. All this and much, much more in this episode 42, of the No Business Soccer Podcast. Kick us off, Snooze.
Let's dig in. Oh, yeah. Thanks for tuning in. What is going on, everybody? I am your host, Snooze, and this is the No Business Soccer Podcast. We have a lot to talk about, as we usually do, since we cover a lot of leagues here around Europe. I say here like we're there, but either way, we also have almost a full family. J-Fam, he just took off. Y'all just missed him. But we do have our boy Danny P on the ones and twos, and of course, I heard my boy clanking around in there. Hi, man, Vic. What are you sipping on today, dog?
Well, my loins are telling me to drink more tequila, so I've been into tequila a little bit more. And this is a Oaxacan old fashioned. So Oaxacan, yeah. What do you say? Say it again.
Oaxacan.
We'll do that one. Oaxacan. You're the one that's been there, right? Haven't you been there?
I have gone to Oaxaca. Yeah, beautiful.
You should tell me. Well, it is tequila, reposado, a mezcal, and some bitters, and it's just an old fashioned, but with tequila.
Now that sounds awesome. I would actually partake in that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
also,
awesome sounds.
The reason it's in this glass is because I have not made new ice yet, so all I have is this really tall ice. And
damn, my boy's making his own ice too. Okay,
yeah, make your own ice.
Well, look at him. I mean, I guess it's not a big deal. I used to make ice cubes all the time. I don't know why that just sounded really cool when you said it, though. You know.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, we have the European reach around or wrap up, whatever you want to call it. We also have Austin FC minute. We have some Wrexham recap, but we're also going to talk about the playoffs. Can you believe it? Playoffs in soccer. I know, that's crazy. And then of course we're going to cover all the leagues in detail. We're not going to cover the transfer stuff that's happening because as of the recording, I think it just ended maybe an hour ago. So I haven't got a chance to see everything that closed and all the deals that got done. So with that said, I think let's kick it off first and take it over to our boots on the ground in Austin, Texas for the Austin FC Minute.
And we will try to keep it at a minute. There's not much really that isn't a rumor going around, but we will start first off with two of the Wolves. The Wolves joining Houston, actually, the Dynamo. The only one that's not going. Gavin Wolf, who was in our under 18, our Austin FC, team that we had. Academy, the Academy is going over to Houston Dynamo to join their team, their academy, and everything like that, as well as their father, who's our first coach. Our boy is going over there to be an assistant coach. Josh Wolf. Sorry, should say his name. Josh Wolf, previous Austin FC head coach, now joining Houston Dynamo to become an assistant coach there. So mark your calendars for that first Houston and Austin game. It's going to be pretty cool, man. It's going to be pretty good. Awesome. The only other little thing to note, and these are just rumors. I usually don't like to do rumors, but I just thought this one was weird. Celta Vigo is looking to get Brandon Vasquez, who we just signed from us. They're interested in either signing him on a loan or purchasing him. And I was like, that would be ridiculous. We better get like 3 times the amount of money that we bought him for. There's no way we just get rid of this guy. Yeah, exactly. So, that's it. Not much going on. We're still about to start the Coachella Open Invitational Classic thing they have over there. They're actually going to be streaming 2 games on AustinFC.com. I think it's against the Galaxy and somebody else. I don't know. Please look it up. But they'll be streaming a couple of games. We'll be able to watch them before the season starts. And it's going to look good. I think the first game is on Wednesday and the other game is on Saturday. So be on the lookout.
Damn,
for that.
Let's go. Okay.
Other than that, we're good.
That's that Celta Vigo. That's crazy. That is a crazy rumor. I didn't hear that one. That is insane.
I literally just read it like probably 3 or 4 hours ago. I was like, we just got Vasquez. He hasn't even he has played a little bit, but
Europe is Europe, though. That's what we cover here. So, okay. Well, thank you, sir. Well, I think that is it for the Austin FC Minute. So we're going to go now to Wales for the Wrexham recap. And it is another week of 2 League One matches, or it just was anyway. And they welcomed 15th Stevenage to the racecourse on Tuesday, January 28th. And then that was quickly followed by a road trip to second bottom, as it's called, Crawley Town. And let's see how they did, shall we? With Stevenage in that match, Stevenage hadn't scored much on the road this season, as the commentary was saying. And so, of course, they get the opener at the racecourse within the first 13 minutes after Okonkwo spilled it right on the onrushing Dan Kemp. And that was quickly followed up by another failed attempt to block a long-range effort just 5 minutes later. In 18 minutes in, Stevenage were up 2-0 on the road. That's not very good if you haven't seen where they are in the table. Super Paul Mullen gets one back with a header in the 55th minute, though, and any hope of a comeback was quickly put out after Stevenage get yet another goal in the 71st minute. And that always sucks. Whenever you get one and then they get the next one, it's like, yeah, we thought. So yes, but I will say Max Cleworth heads home the second for Wrexham to make it interesting at the tail end of the match. It was too little too late, and they fall 3-2 to Stevenage at home. The second match, Crawley Town, after a midweek slip-up against Stevenage, we just talked about, Phil Parkinson wasn't effing around. He throws his new boys in directly into the starting 11, and the new boys we're talking about are Jay Rodriguez coming from Burnley and Sam Smith coming from Reading, the two new signings in the January window. And the match almost instantly started off better with Matty James putting Wrexham in front after just 2 minutes. And from that point, it seemed like Wrexham were going to dominate and see out the 1-0 win, but it's never straightforward with them, is it? We can't ever just see a 1-0 win and just be okay and comfortable. I mean, get 2-3, But in the 88th minute, Bradley Ibrahim levels it for Crawley Town with an insane long-range shot. And when I say, he obviously meant to do what he tried to do or what happened, but he could take that shot 100 times and maybe make it twice. It was an insane shot. If you haven't seen the highlight, go check it out because it was worth watching. And it was doom and gloom. It felt like Wrexham were going to drop points yet again to a lower table team in League One until our knight in shining armor, Elliot Lee, came to the rescue. With 5 minutes of stoppage time, Elliot Lee heads home across with virtually the last touch of the game. A minute earlier, Crawley Town home crowd were chanting, "You're not singing anymore," to the Wrexham fans to mock the traveling faithful. But they didn't end the match with that chant, I can tell you that much. And the boys did it at the brink. They get the win. And that's a 2-1 win, 2-0 win, 2-1 win. Yeah, sorry. But I will say, I mentioned that getting 6 points in this 2-game span against two lower table teams was kind of imperative for them because Wycombe and Birmingham, both who were above them in the table, had much tougher matchups. And while Wrexham did get 3 points from this, Birmingham got 6 points and Wycombe got 4. So they actually lost ground. That's not good. This essentially means that Wrexham are fighting it out with Wycombe for that last automatic promotion spot because Birmingham are in first place right now with an 8-point gap, and they have 2 games in hand. So that's pretty much, basically like Liverpool in the Prem, if you will. Right, Vic? Oh, you're all green today. They don't even know. Yeah, but Wycombe are only 4 points ahead of them, and that they have played the same amount of matches, and they have a matchup directly against each other March 15th. So that could be a massive game. And that is it for your Wrexham recap. The boys, they got 3 points. I don't think it was the best timing, but they get a win out of 2, and yeah, we're off and running. Still third place in the table. Okay,
very nice.
Let's go to the UEFA competitions now because Vic, we got playoffs to talk about, man. Playoffs, UEFA competitions. And we'll start in the Conference League, but our boy Hype Man Vic's having some technical difficulties. He's going to jump in whenever he can. But for now, we're going to talk about the playoffs because in the Conference League, there's really only a couple that we are really looking out for before the round of 16 gets started. And that the first one that I want to talk about is Copenhagen versus Heidenheim, because I don't really watch much of Copenhagen in their regular league, but I will say Heidenheim, just to get to this point, is pretty cool, as they had never been in Europe before, but they are absolutely terrible in the Bundesliga right now. So they're probably looking to get a quick out here so they can stop like getting that congestion in their fixtures. And then the other one that's pretty cool that we might want to watch is Ghent versus Real Betis. Real Betis, they're similar to Heidenheim. Their form has been a little bit better. Now they got Anthony over there, and man, I just think it'll be a fun one to watch. The other teams probably never heard of, probably not a lot to talk about with them. And that is it for the Conference League as far as the playoffs, important matches are concerned. So let's go to the Europa League now, which has a couple more teams that are more well-known, I guess we'll say. And one of the first matches we see on the docket, if you will, is Roma versus Porto. And that game will be awesome because Roma, they're like we keep saying, they're resurgent in their form in the Serie A. And Porto are always a fun team to watch. And then we also get the two Turkish clubs that are definitely something you want to take a look at. Fenerbahce versus Anderlecht, and then Galatasaray versus AZ Alkmaar. I don't really know if you want to watch Real Sociedad right now. They are in a free fall. I don't know what the heck's happening, but they are playing in the playoffs of the Europa League as well. Okay, now the moment that you've all been waiting for, the Champions League. That's where we're talking about the biggest clubs that are going head-to-head, which kind of unexpected. I was listening to a podcast about if this format is actually working or if it's worth it, all the change that had happened. And so far, these playoffs to get into the round of 16, there's actually pretty cool matches. We get to see PSG versus Brest. We get to see Sporting and Dortmund, Juventus versus PSV, Manchester City versus Real Madrid. That is the big one there, as that's not even in the round of 16. This is the playoff to get in, and that's awesome. We also get Club Brugge versus Atalanta, Bayern versus Celtic, Benfica versus Monaco, and Feyenoord versus Milan. All really enticing games. A lot of games that we could see some bangers, I'm guessing. I want to see how these teams stack up. And then at the end of the day, we'll see in the round of 16 if it's all the same teams. Like if it's Juve, PSG, Dortmund, Real Madrid, like all the big teams make it anyway. Maybe this whole thing was just for, what do they call it? Like show and ponies or whatever the heck. Because I don't really know if this is going to make a big difference as far as the clubs that are getting into the latter stages of the tournament. Okay. Looks like we're still missing our key man, but the show must go on for now. So let's go right in to the European wrap-up or the European reach-around. And I think we're going to start, because he's not here yet, so he doesn't have a vote. We can start with Serie A. And he does this. And I'll do this part, and I know I can feel it. He's about to be back. But in Serie A, on Friday, we had the Milkmen get a dominant 3-1 win over Parma on the road, and it's not looking good for Parma. They score first at home, but before giving up 3 unanswered goals, and it's now 5 matches without a win for Parma. The Milkmen are doing great, though. Udinese get their first win in the last 5 Serie A matches as they beat Venezia 3-2. Venezia come back from 2 goals down to level it, but a late goal by Iker Bravo breaks Venetian hearts and saves 3 points for Udinese. I said that Verona would be in trouble if they couldn't get 3 points from Monza, and bam, they get all 3 points. They took that and took it to heart. But Verona won't care one bit that it was a 1-0 win, and that one goal was an own goal in the 13th minute, and pretty much nothing happened after that. But points is points, baby. That's what the wise men say. In our preview of this match, I said that it would be a good time for Torino to nick a point off Atalanta, and boy, did they. On a cold, rainy night in Bergamo, our boy Milinkovic Savage for Torino stopped a 73rd minute penalty by leading Serie A goal scorer Retegui, and they split the points in a 1-1 draw. Could you imagine the pressure coming up to that penalty? Milinkovic Savage, as we call him here, he was just a demon all night out there. What a keeper. Bologna get a 2-0 win over Como at home, and they needed all 3 points to keep their European dreams for the next season alive and hopefully get another crack at it because their first season through was pretty rough. Como get an early red card here and have now lost back-to-back matches. Como, man, come on, let's do this. On Sunday, we had Juve add another notch in the win column after they beat Empoli 4-1. New boy Kolo Muani gets a brace, although the second was a kind of lucky one. But Vlahovic, welcome back, sir. He blasted in a pinpoint perfect long-range shot from outside the box. And what a great time for Juve to get 3 points as the teams above them all drop points this weekend. Fiorentina are right there with Juve as they also get 3 points in a 2-1 win at home against Genoa. Moise Kean scored the absolute most ridiculous goal I've ever seen, at least in a while. And the Viola get back-to-back wins, much needed for them. Genoa are doing their mid-table thing, and our Fiorentina are back on top. Not on top of the table, but you know what I mean. We also had the Milan derby that ends 1-1, and we'll dig more into that in a second. And then we had Roma versus Napoli ending 1-1 as well, and we'll discuss further also in a minute. And then on Monday, just today, Lazio bounced back from their defeat to Fiorentina last weekend with a 2-1 win over Cagliari. It was a great time to get 3 points as well as the teams directly above them. Same thing I was talking about with Juve. They all drop points, so it's good to get a win in the top of that table. Now, hopefully, we get to see Vic with this table, but if not, you'll see me be doing it here in just a moment. You can pause there, I guess, Daniel. Oh, yes. We don't have to pause there. Look at that.
If it's not one thing, it's another.
And your mics and everything are right.
All right. Working?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Vic, how about you take the table?
Okay. Looking at the table, and we'll pretend like nothing happened. Napoli are still on top. They have 54 points. Right behind them is Inter Milan with 51 points in the second spot. Atalanta still hold the third spot with 47 points. And Lazio round out the top four with 42 points. Top three getting draws in there. Not really shaking anything up, but I guess they're all a little bit happy about that. If we take a look at the bottom of the table and the teams that would be gone if the season ended today, Parma would be the number one out. They are the first losers, I guess, in the 18th spot. I think that's what they call them, like legally. So,
first losers.
Yeah. So they have 20 points. Venezia keeping their badge but staying in relegation, have 16 points in the 19th spot, and Monza holding up the table with 13 points. In the 20th spot and not looking too good for them. But Lecce did crawl out. They did get a win. The only team in the bottom seven to get a win. So good on them, the Milkman, for getting out of relegation. But snooze, like I said earlier, the top three all got draws. I guess it's very good news for Napoli. And tell us a little bit more about their match this past weekend.
Yeah, that great timing for Napoli because on the night, Napoli felt like the better team in my eyes. But for all the hard work they had done throughout the match, it was still only 1-0. The goal they got from this is a hard name to say. It's like very Italian. Spinazzola was a filthy chip over the keeper in the first half. I mean, it was just nasty. It was awesome. I always say it's disrespectful, and that's exactly what it was. But Roma kept on fighting, and you could feel the belief never left this Roma squad, and you could see it in how they were playing and how they kept going for it. But outside of a couple of close calls from free kicks from Paredes, it wasn't happening for them. Dybala was basically a non-factor. But 2 minutes into stoppage time, a perfect cross from Salamanca's, what a name, falls just in front of Angelino, and he volleys it home. It was an effing beautiful goal and sent the Stadio Olimpico crazy. That win breaks Napoli's 7-game winning streak in the Serie A and is just their third loss of the entire season, which only Inter and Juve have lost less. Both of those work, actually. They both have only lost once. The unlikely point that Roma got here means they are unbeaten their last 7 Serie A matches and still climbing. Napoli dropped points for the first time in 7 matches, like I mentioned, but they still maintain a 3-point gap from Inter at the top of the table, and it had a lot to do with the Milan derby that we're going to talk about now. In the preview, I said there hadn't been a draw in this match since March 2022, and they decided that it had been long enough, and they decided to split the points 1-1, but it was a tale of two halves, as it felt like Milan were the better team in the first half, but the second half, we were more specifically the last 20 minutes or so, Inter were nonstop with the pressure and shots after shots. Milan went into the half a goal up and led the entirety of the second half until finally De Vrij, I don't know how to pronounce his name right, sweeps in a chested down cross from Zalewski in the 93rd minute. And I say finally because, as I mentioned, it felt like there was only a matter of time before they leveled it, but they hit the same post 3 times, Vic, and had multiple chances blocked. I mean, can you imagine like the same one over and over? But finally, in stoppage time, it felt like, it was not going to be their day. but the derby delivers as it always does, the late drama, and it did not disappoint. You had to see it. You really got to see. You feel for Milan because you would think that they were just assuming by that point that they were going to get those 3 points. But I mean, for them, they definitely feel like they dropped points in this one. It wasn't splitting the points; they feel like they dropped. But they're still in striking distance of Europe. And Inter, I think they'll feel hard done by because they could have got 3 or 4. I mean, they hit the same post 3 times, so it could have been 3 or 4 goals for them. But it does not end that way. It ends 1-1. And I was going for Inter. You were going for Milan, and they split the points, man. What can I say? The curse happens again. Like they're not going to draw. No way. And yes, they do. Okay. Well, man, our the team that we've been kind of, I've kind of made it pet project since they started off so horribly. Roma, they're kind of showing out right now, dude. They're fun to watch. They're in the playoffs. We were just talking about it a second ago.
The playoffs,
man. And old.
I missed the whole playoffs. I missed the whole playoff talk, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
All right, sorry, guys. Try. Snooze did extremely well with it. I'm sure.
I was trying to.
All good.
Okay. Well, with that, let's move right along to Spain.
Let's do it to La Liga.
Yes.
Soothing.
The smooth sounds of Spain. And on Friday night in La Liga, we had Leganes fall at home to Rayo 1-0. And I said this was my sleeper pick for the match of the match week, the La Liga match week, I guess we'll say. And it did not disappoint. The match overall wasn't great, but it did not disappoint at the end. And an early red card for Leganes meant they were under pressure the whole match, but they got a penalty in stoppage time that was blocked. And then they put back in the rebound to get the leveler. But it had to be retaken because the Leganes player went too early and they retook the penalty and it was blocked again. And that's how Rayo get a 1-0 win. It was insane. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Saturday, Getafe and Sevilla go 0-0 in a match where they had a combined 2 shots on target. It was a horrible match, but Getafe will be glad to take a point from this one. And I think it's a worse result for a struggling Sevilla team. Villarreal put on a show for their home crowd as they beat Vix Volidoli 5-1. What's even better is that all 5 goals were scored by different bros. Ayoze Perez's goal was the best, in my opinion, but Valladolid are in deep, deep trouble if they're going to stay up now. Atleti are back in the win column with a 2-0 win over Mallorca. More on that in a second. And here's what I wrote for the preview of Real Madrid versus Espanyol, just, last week. An inspired Espanyol side welcome Real Madrid, and I don't know how much analysis you can spin on this to try to find a way that Espanyol can get a point. But soccer's crazy. And that stadium was rocking, and Espanyol frustrated Real all night, and they hit him on the counter for a 1-0 win. This is what it's all about, folks. There's nothing better than proving me wrong and pretty much everybody out there wrong. What a night for Espanyol. And on Sunday, Barca beat Alaves 1-0. But the story of the game for me, anyway, was, of course, Lamine Yamal. When I watched this kid play, I can't fathom, that's the only word I can think of, that he is that young, that he's only, 18, 19 years old, whatever he is. He plays with so much confidence, skill, tenacity. And, today he looked like every time he was on the ball, he was either going to score or assist. They only got a 1-0 win, but he was amazing. And then I don't remember we talked about it or not, but there was a whole clip of just this run he had where he took on at least 5 or 6 defenders. And I can't remember if you said something about it or not. But he takes on 5 or 6 people at once. They're all collapsing on him. And instead of getting the ball clipped off of him, he passes it out to the wing and Rafinha gets a shot off. I think it's Rafinha. He's insane. It's so awesome to watch this kid. But we could talk about him all day, but we can't. We have more to talk about in La Liga. Valencia get a very much needed 3 points at home in a 2-1 win over Celta Vigo. Javi Guerra take a bow. He got a goal and an assist in this one. Is pretty much his coming out party, I would say. They've still got a ton of work to do to stay up, but young talent like him and 50,000 fans in the Mestalla will definitely help them stay up if they can continue this. Osasuna snaps their 9-game winless streak with a 2-1 win over Real Sociedad. Antti Budimir gets a brace after going 5 games without a goal. La Real have now lost 3 straight La Liga matches, and it's 4 losses in 5 for La Real. We discussed a bit about what was going on, but I still need to dig in. I still need to find out what is happening. So if you're a fan of Real Sociedad, you got to tell me because I'm trying to find something. Betis and Bilbao split the points in an entertaining 2-2 draw. Betis had the stadium rocking, and it felt like all 60,000 capacity was in that stadium. It was Anthony's first match after coming on loan from United, and he was actually pretty good because, he was kind of a meme in the Prem. Bilbao have now drawn in back-to-back matches, but the way the atmosphere was in the Benito Villamarin, they're lucky to be leaving with a point, honestly, even though they were the team that was way higher in the table. And today, on Monday, Girona stopped their skid of 2 losses with a 2-1 win over Las Palmas. And oh, how the mighty Las Palmas have fallen as they have now lost 3 of their last 4 in La Liga. Back to you, Vic, for the table.
And at the top of the table is still Real Madrid. Win, lose, or draw, they were going to retain their number 1 spot, and thankful for them because they lost. Atletico Madrid now cut the lead to 1 point. They have 48 points in the second spot, just breathing down their neck. Barcelona trying to cut in as well. They have 45 points, 3 points behind Atleti, and rounding out the top 4 is Atletico Bilbao, 4 points behind Barcelona with 41 points. Tickling the top is Villarreal with 37 points. Is a 4-point gap there, so they won't be getting the top 4 next week. But still gonna definitely try. At the bottom of the table, those teams that would be eliminated if the season ended today is Alaves. They have 21 points. They are in the 18th spot, the first losers, as we call them. And Valencia in the 19th spot have 19 points as well. They the only team in the bottom 3 to get a win, but still in the relegation zone. And man, holy guacamole, my volley dolies. Real Valladolid have 15 points, but a negative 32 goal differential this year. And now with their 4-1 loss, was it 4-1 or 5-1? I think it was 5-1.
5-1.
Yeah, now they have double the worst goal differential at least. The next closest is negative 15, and that's Valencia. They have negative 32, so it's worse than that, actually. Not looking good for them. They are on a 3-game losing streak, and we can only hope things get a little bit better. We'll see how they do it.
We'll get to watch them dominate the Segunda División. Then that's pretty much how that works.
You got to keep up with them, see what happens. But on the other side of the things, Real Madrid, like I said, win, lose, or draw, we're going to keep the number 1 spot. But Atleti were able to close the gap a little bit more. Tell us how in this last match they had.
Yes, Atleti, they got 3 points after dropping points in back-to-back matches in La Liga. They kind of get back onto their groove. But if you look at the stat sheet, it'll tell you that the possession was pretty even. Shots on target was pretty close. It seems on paper anyway, that it was a pretty even match. But as I was watching this one, it never really felt like Atleti were in jeopardy of losing it, that they were pretty dominant until the end of the game where Mallorca kind of came on. But they just had better chances all day, and it never felt like they were going to lose. That's just the point I'm trying to make here. Sam Lino gets the scoring started, though, in the first half, and Antoine Griezmann wraps up 3 points with a bow in his filthy chip of the keeper. Just a disrespectful thing to do anytime you do it, and I love it. And this win leaves Atleti just a point behind Real Madrid, as Vic was saying, after they were upset by Espanyol, which is crazy. But it means Mallorca have now lost 3 straight matches in La Liga, and they fall to 7th, pushing the mighty Rayo Vallecano into 6th and into the European places. And this was the only match that we were watching, or we called out anyway, in La Liga this past weekend. But I want to talk about Rayo Vallecano for just a moment because at the moment, like I was saying, they're 6th in the table and fighting for Europe. And on the commentary at the end of the match, they said, with this result, talking about Europe for Rayo is no longer a joke, which that's harsh, but it is very true for them. And Vic, I know we're talking about that, and it's something that we obviously see this late in the season, and it's a true thing right there. You can't look at them and not be hyped up. But this is what their manager said. Let me know if this would, like, if you're on his squad, if you'd be, inspired by this. The manager, Inigo Perez. They asked him in the presser post-match presser is what I'm going to say about the possibility of Europe, and he said, to achieve safety is the goal. We are 3 points closer to it, and Europe is destined for other teams, but it's not for us. And the fact that we are now in Europe is purely anecdotal until the near future. If possible, we need to achieve safety first. For now, that word Europe is banished. So, not a very inspiring speech. He's basically like, off. Yeah, we're 6th, but he's like, yeah, I don't want to get relegated. Like,
we got you to 6th. Like, have you seen Valladolid play? We're gonna be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to push those European spots. We got you this far, and you don't want to back us up. No, that'd be messed up.
Yeah, I thought
That's
that
pretty
was
messed
hilarious.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, everybody's all hyped up, like, man, you're almost in Europe, and he's like, let's just not get relegated, guys. Okay, like, take it easy, take a step back here, guys.
I mean, technically, he's right. I mean, yeah, but come on.
But check us out, though.
Come on, leader.
It's when your team hasn't lost in La Liga since December 1st, leaving them unbeaten in 8 matches, and that stretch includes matches against Real Madrid and Villarreal, the hype is going to start building. And let's not forget that this team finished 17th last year, meaning that they were the last team above the drop zone. And they haven't made it into Europe since 2000-2001 season. Plus, from what I can find, Rayo's best ever finish in La Liga was 8th back in 2012-2013. So, yeah, I mean, Inigo Perez, look, I did it again. Perez. We will be dreamers for your Rayo Vallecano for you. And don't be such a Debbie Downer, bro. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Let us dream a bit.
Okay. Oh my God. What an odd thing to say.
Oh. Yeah. You know, hey, he's just very practical, I guess.
Yes.
All right. So shout out to Rayo. And that is it for La Liga. Let's now move over to the land of beer and brats. Let's go to Germany.
To Bundesliga.
Oh, yes. On Friday, Bremen get a nice 1-0 win at home against Mainz. Mainz dominated possession with 63%, and it was attack after attack, but Bremen had the lead, and they were willing to sit back. I got a little cheek clinchy, if you will, when Bremen had 2 players sent off in stoppage time and had to play 9 men for the final 3 minutes with only a 1-0 lead. But ultimately, they got the job done and closed the gap to Mainz and those European spots. On Saturday, St. Pauli got so close to winning 3 consecutive games in the Bundesliga, but they had to settle for a point in a 1-1 draw with Augsburg. The result leaves a pretty good gap between Augsburg and St. Pauli, who are right next to each other in the table. Vic will tell us the details about that in a second. Bayern get all 3 points in a 4-3 win over Kiel, but it was much too close for comfort for the home fans. Bayern were up 4-0 in this one to Kiel, and they let them get really, really close to coming all the way back. But Bayern get it done, as they seem to always do. It's just like some cheeks were clinched in Munich, let me tell you. Bochum fall to Freiburg 1-0, which is great for a Freiburg squad that had lost 3 straight Bundesliga matches. Bochum have now lost back-to-back matches after a win and a draw in the previous 2. Not looking good for their survival chances. I think they're pretty much gone. Stuttgart losing back-to-back games as they fall at home to Gladbach 2-1. We'll talk about that one more in a sec. Dortmund get their first win, their first Bundesliga win in 5 matches as they beat Heidenheim 2-1 on the road. Both teams come into this match in horrible form, but Dortmund were just too much for the free-falling Double H as they have lost now 3 straight in the Bundesliga. Leipzig and Union finish 0-0. Union Berlin get a much-needed point. In Leipzig, as I said, it's always 1 step forward, 2 steps back with them, and they get an unbelievable draw against Leverkusen. And then they get a goalless draw against the team that's 14th in the table in the Bundesliga. I don't know what to think of these guys. They're just, I can never actually truly believe in them. They did sign Xavi Simons full, like he was on loan. Now he's their player. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Sunday, Eintracht Frankfurt and Wolfsburg split the points in a 1-1 draw. We'll talk more in a second. And Leverkusen get 3 points at home in a 3-1 win over Hoffenheim after Leverkusen raced out to a dominant 3-0 advantage. Alex Grimaldo was sent off in the 60th minute, and Hoffenheim got one back and had all the momentum, but it wasn't enough. It ends 3-1 to Leverkusen. Okay, Vic, tell us what that table do.
Yeah, so on top, very familiar. Bayern Munich are still number 1 on top with at least a 6-game winning streak. They have 51 points, 6 games. What you see there on the table, never losing Leverkusen are in the 2nd spot with 45 points. So there's a 6-point gap between them. Pretty getting some more and more parity up there because 7 points behind them is Eintracht Frankfurt. Eintracht Frankfurt.
There you go.
I used to say that a lot better. I don't know what happened, but maybe it's the tequila. Who knows? In the 3rd spot,
say about the alcohol.
Yeah, with 38 points. And then Leipzig get in the top 4. It's passing up Stuttgart because they did get a draw. Stuttgart got a loss. They have 33 points, rounding out our top 4. And again, Stuttgart tickling the top 4 there in the 5th spot with 32 with the recent loss. At the bottom of the table, the teams that would be out of the league if the season ended today are Holstein Kiel. They are in the 17th spot with 12 points. And boy, oh boy, Bochum, they were looking so good for a while. They still have 10 points, winless in their last 3 games, but holding up the rest of the table. As you said earlier, Augsburg and St. Pauli are next to each other. They're in the 12th and 13th spot, respectively, but 5 points is a differential between them. For perspective, Augsburg has 26 points. 5 points above them is Mainz in the 6th spot. So 5 points down to 13th and 5 points up to 6th spot. That's pretty crazy from the 12th spot. But if we look up near the European spots, I think Stuttgart was able to get leapfrogged by Leipzig. I was worried about saying that, but I think it came out pretty good. Leapfrogged by Leipzig, and now in the 5th spot, they were lost to Borussia Mönchengladbach.
There you go.
But tell us more about that and how Stuttgart slipped up a little bit for them.
Yeah, I would think that before I give Stuttgart credit for slipping up, what I will say is that it's a big time result for Gladbach. How about that? Because that team are right in the thick of the European place battle against Stuttgart and Mainz. So not only was this match a big just because it's two well-known teams in the Bundesliga, but Gladbach they're facing a team that they're directly under. You know what I mean? So it's a bigger stakes, if you will. And it's getting super tight at the top of the table, as Vic was just saying, with 2 points separating Dortmund in 11th from Mainz in 6th. Like it's crazy up there. So getting 3 points from a direct rival is obviously very important. And even if Stuttgart have looked a little vulnerable late, I mentioned that they had pretty much been in like a dogfight for the last few Champions League matches to try to get something from that campaign. It ended up being a failure, but they did have a draining match against PSG midweek that I was saying that it could affect them coming into this one. And I don't want to say that's what happened, but boy, it sure looked like it did because they were sloppy in defense for both goals. If you watch them, they could do way better. And the attacking side looked decent, but everyone looks a little gassed, honestly. And I'm pretty sure they're pleased to be out of the Champions League at this point because having gained the experience and understanding now, they probably need a much deeper squad if they're going to make it into Europe for the next season and be playing on multiple fronts. The issue for both of these teams, though, and the excitement for us is that Stuttgart get Dortmund next while Gladbach get Eintracht Frankfurt. So, big time games in the Bundesliga coming up. And Gladbach, if they can get one over Eintracht Frankfurt, maybe we're looking at Europe. Okay. With that said, Eintracht also had a game of their own against Wolfsburg where it ended 1-1. And as I mentioned in the preview, Frankfurt shockingly dropped points last match day against Hoffenheim. And I would say they dropped points here again against a mid-table Wolfsburg side because while their attacking threat did look a little stifled, and understandably so, when they lost Marmouche, who's looking great over there in City, by the way. It just wasn't the big issue that I had with them in this match. The biggest issue was how bad the defending was. I mean, it was absolutely horrible. It would make you get a headache instantly if you watch this, Vic. I know you're the defense man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was really bad, particularly on the Wolfsburg goal. It looked like the keeper and defender miscommunicated or something like that. And it was just sloppy. It goes in, and it didn't even really look like they were trying. The good thing for Frankfurt is that they've now done good enough to separate themselves from the pack and sees 11th through 4th only separated by 4 points. So they're not part of that. Wolfsburg are part of that pack, though, in 10th, and will need to pick up 3 points in their next time out in order to keep on climbing up that table. But it will be hard because they got Leverkusen coming into town, and Leverkusen have been on a tear, never losing. Leverkusen. Eintracht will look to build up the points gap for some more next week against Gladbach, like we just talked about. And Gladbach, they're on a streak of their own. So, yeah, next week we got a lot of good games coming up in the Bundesliga. I'm pretty excited about that. And I know that my boy, High Man Vic, is as well. He's talked about everything, okay?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Well, before we jump into... no, we'll cover that later. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the Premier League, to England.
Yeah, let's do it then. To the Prem.
Yeah, I was going to talk about some transfer news that was coming up.
He could have brought it up.
I could have, but okay. Well, I think what we need to do though is talk about some of the games in the Prem because I'm beaming from ear to ear. Something happened that hasn't happened in a long time for my boys. And let's start first with Saturday. We got started off with a bang as Forest destroy Brighton 7-0. Chris Wood gets a hat trick, and the ass whooping gets Forest back on track after getting whooped on their own last week. Brighton dropped back-to-back matches, are in really bad shape right now, though. But Forest, man, 7-0. That is insane. Fulham go on the road to Newcastle and take all 3 points in a 2-1 win. Newcastle could not build on their win last time out, while Fulham avenged their narrow defeat to United. With that result, the European places are getting real tight, as Vic will show us here in just a moment. Everton beat Leicester 4-0. Decore scores in the first minute, and you knew it was over from there. That's now 9 points from a possible 12, and 3 straight wins in the Prem since David Moyes, the Moyesiah, took over. What a freaking turnaround for them. Southampton won for just the second time all season, and that's something to be applauded for. They get 3 points as they beat Ipswich Town on the road 2-1, and it was in exciting fashion, I might add, as they get an 87th minute winner. There's a lot of last-minute winners this weekend. Liverpool proved that there are levels to this game. Levels. And a 2-0 win over Bournemouth. More on that in a second. Wolves upset Aston Villa at home 2-0 to stop their run of 4 straight losses in the Prem, and this wasn't a fluky one either. They played what appeared to be free-flowing, attacking football. It was actually fun to watch. I couldn't believe that Wolves were playing this way. They hadn't really looked this way lately, but, I mean, just look at Cunha's goal if you want to see filthy. Like, that dude is really good, and I heard he signed an extension too, but we'll talk about that later. On Sunday, Crystal Palace go to Manchester and take all 3 points at Old Trafford as they beat United 2-0. For Manchester United, they've lost 7 of 13 home games this season, and that is the most home losses they've had at this point in the season since 1894. That is insane. The fact that they're that old is insane, but just that's crazy. And I think maybe Amorim was right when they talk about how this might be the worst United team ever. Tottenham looked like their old selves as they go to Brentford and get a 2-0 win. 3 points and a clean sheet is just what the doctor ordered as they look to rebuild from their collapse. They got some reinforcements too, which is really good. I'm excited about that. And Sonny was back at his best, almost at his best, but he was really good in this one. Arsenal dismantled City 5-1. We'll talk more about that one in a sec. And today, Chelsea get a 2-1 win over Graham Potter's West Ham, who have now only 1 win in their last 5 matches in the Prem. Chelsea take advantage of the rest of the team slipping up above them, and now they're looking to make some headway up there. Vic, where does that leave us in the Prem table?
Well, it leaves us in a beautiful spot still because Liverpool are on top with 56 points. They still have the Merseyside derby in hand. They will play that on the 12th of February, here 9 days. DJ Danny P still has the day off. Hopefully, we're going to go watch that match. In the second place is Arsenal with 50 points after their win. They're looking pretty good, but still a 6-point differential from them and Liverpool. And again, with Liverpool with the game in hand as well. Nottingham Forest, after their 7-0 thrashing, take the 3rd spot with 47 points. And as you just said, Chelsea were able to leapfrog Manchester City and Newcastle United since they did get a win. Manchester City and Newcastle United both lost. So Chelsea have 43 points and are holding on to the 4th spot, rounding out our top 4. And Man City and Newcastle United are both tied with 41 points in the 5th and 6th spot, respectively, tickling those top 4 spots. And man, I was just pulling for Newcastle United to see if we could get Man City out of those spots. That would have been pretty crazy to see again, but can't always get what you want. It doesn't matter.
I will say this one before we move on. I think that David Moyes coming in has kind of changed the feel for that match that's going to be made up with between Liverpool, the Merseyside derby. You know what I mean? Like, do you feel that way or no?
No. I don't.
Okay.
That's good.
Right.
No, I was kidding.
Right.
I don't know, man. It feels like a trap game. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll go to the pub. We'll have a few pints. If you guys see me, I'll be dressed in the same way as last episode, Liverpool jersey. And Kit, sorry, you'll see Snooze there as well. I mean, not Snooze. You'll see Danny P there as well. Snooze, you're invited.
I'm good. Okay, hey, maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll get out of the house for once.
Yeah, be sure. Okay. Let us know. But at the bottom of the table, the teams that would be eliminated, relegated, if the season ended today, first loser is Leicester City. They have 17 points. Oh, excuse me, in the 18th spot. Ipswich Town retain the 19th spot with 16 points. And then Southampton, despite their win, still have a lot of ground to make up. They are holding up the rest of the table in the 20th spot with 9 measly points. And no, Snooze, it sounds really good when you talk about Liverpool. Just tell us more about the Liverpool match this weekend, and I won't take any more of your time. Go ahead.
It is hard to talk about Liverpool in such glowing fashion, especially in front of this guy. But you got, hey, got to respect the game, right?
That's right. Reporters.
So, let's do it. Liverpool end the Cherries' 11-game unbeaten run in the league and do it in pretty straightforward fashion. Bournemouth had a couple of chances here and there, but it never felt like they were truly going to give Liverpool trouble. And when Cody Gakpo tripped over his own foot, in my opinion, and they gave Liverpool a pen, you knew it was going to be their day. Vic, come on.
No, really? he did. So I saw another angle. He did hit his foot, and it made him trip. Because I was sitting at the bar. There was a guy that I've seen there a couple of times. His name's Godwin. In case you're watching, I haven't even told you about this podcast. But
what up,
in case
Godwin?
You're watching, what's up, Godwin? We'll see you on the 12th for that Everton match. But we both saw that before we saw the angle of him actually getting hit. We were like, all right, we might have got away with one there. It's all right. Just kick it. Kick the ball.
Maybe I haven't seen the angle. It just looked like he hit himself.
I'll show you. The guy trailing him, his knee hit his foot. Like he was that close. His knee and his foot made him trip. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
I have a note here. I had like a little legit note to say bring Vic in to discuss because I was like, are you serious? Like, come on.
Yeah, we were definitely feeling. We were like, oh man, I think we got away with it. Hurry, kick the penalty, kick the penalty, kick it.
Well, either way, it didn't matter because Salah is automatic from the spot. I told my wife, we were watching this one, and I walked away whenever he was stepping up because I had to do something. And she was like, "You're not going to watch it?" I'm like, "He's going to score it. There's he's not going to miss it." And he does. He makes it 1-0. And then we fast forward all the way to the 69th minute when Justin Kluivert has a sitter and a chance that just rolls right past him, and he blasts it off the post after it's blasted off the post. And it was ridiculous. Like he's sitting there, keeper's over there, wide open goal, and he just skies it. It could have been 1-1, but it didn't happen. And you know what happens, Vic, whenever you don't take the chances against the Liverpool team is Salah. He is, what does Thanos say?
It's perfectly balanced. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Did you say Thanos?
Is it Thanos? It's like he's like, I'm inevitable.
Oh yeah, he is inevitable. Yes.
That's what I always say. So because he doesn't hit the open net that's right in front of him, 5 minutes later, Salah curls one in. Ridiculous. He's so good. And it's just another goal, another impossible angle, and the game's out of reach. And that's, most of the teams from 5 to 10 lost this weekend. So Bournemouth didn't really lose any ground with that loss, as Vic was just showing us. But it's just they disappointed us because they were on such a good run, and we wanted to see them at least put up a fight, and they go out and didn't even get a goal. So, but I will say Liverpool are in prime position for the title now. Arsenal they did end up beating City, which we're going to talk about here in 2 seconds, to stay pace with them. But man, the way Liverpool are playing, I just don't see anybody catching them. And I'm not going to try to do the reverse juju stuff that people do. Like, I'm just Liverpool really good. They're fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch them in the Champions League too, right?
Yes, for sure. Can't wait. We still got to wait because they got buys,
playoffs,
number 1. Yeah, so yeah,
number 1, and we gotta wait. I know it is crazy. It's like we have to wait till what? Like,
I think so.
March, something like that.
Yeah,
to watch the round of 16.
Yeah, I think so. It's quite a while away. And then there's no Premier. Well, I mean, we're making up the Merseyside derby, but there's no Premier League next weekend either.
I know, man. It's the FA Cup weekend.
Crazy.
Okay. Well, anyway. We still have one more game to talk about before we get out of here, and that is City versus Arsenal. City 1, Arsenal 5. Odegaard scored within the first 2 minutes of this match, and you could feel the Emirates were bringing the ruckus in this one. It was really cool to see because usually that place, I'm a hater, obviously, so it was crazy. I just not used to that. And Arsenal lead 1-0 until Haaland's 55th minute equalizer. And for a brief second, you could feel the tides changing. And I say brief second because it was Foden stupidly tries to pass the ball across the box when there are people crashing down on it. It's intercepted by Partey, who is unmarked at the top of the box, takes his chance, and the lead goes back to Arsenal after just one freaking minute of them being level. That was crazy. But the 60th minute is kind of where City unraveled. And when you see a 5-1 score, Vic, you think like it was probably it was probably an ass whooping. And I mean, to be honest, it was.
Kind of was,
but it wasn't really true for this one because it was really only a horrible 30 minutes. And when I say horrible, I mean horrible. First, 18-year-old star boy Lewis Skelly gets Arsenal's third, and then he goes and does Haaland's celebration. Like, he scores. Yeah, I mean, that's insane. Like, what the ball's on that kid, 18 years old too.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. Don't cut that. Don't cut that. Then Havertz makes it 4. That's hilarious. Maybe.
Clip it.
I know, right? Havertz makes it 4, and the other young wonder boy, Wanyeri, makes it 5. And what a night for Arsenal as the collapse for City continues. And as Vic mentioned, the loss for City, while embarrassing, it didn't really hurt them too much in the table, as 4th through 8th all lost, so no real movement at the top end of the table. But still, I mean, what it means for Arsenal, though, is that their title hopes are still alive. I mean, at least in their mind, I think it's pretty much over. But, 6 points behind Liverpool, with Liverpool having a game in hand, seems a little too much. The main question that we have now is, for City, why is Ortega starting over Ederson? Because there's no way that Ortega is better. I watched that match, and I could see about 5 goals that he could have easily led in, and there was all mistakes that he led to. And maybe I'm a little harsh, but Ederson, they've won the treble with him. Like, what is going on? Why is he not starting right now? So if you're a City fan and you see this, let me know. What's going on? Like, is he just bad? Is he like not with it right now? Is he injured? I don't know. I just don't know why Ortega guy's out there. He looked horrible. Okay, Vic, did you get to watch this one at all? I don't know if you got to see it. I don't want to. I
just watched the highlights of it, and yeah, it was pretty quick whenever Haaland scored, and then they immediately scored again. And I was like, oh, that's nice. But yeah, the rest were kind of just like, at the end, City had everybody forward, so there was a bunch of ways to get around. Yeah, so we kind of understand that. But
when you see 5-1, you think ass whooping, but
yeah, but
I mean, it kind of was. But they're going for it. Like it's all right. Yeah.
Nonetheless, great to see in my eyes, kind of.
Yeah, I'll say Liverpool never have to worry about that. So okay,
not yet,
man. Right. Well, that felt pretty quick, but we did it all. We've said it all. So Vic, take us home.
Yeah, despite a few technical difficulties I had there, I appreciate everybody for sticking around, hanging out with us, talking about some European football happened this past weekend. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias. Everything is at No Business Soccer